Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's me, Jess, and this is the Talking Stick. Thank you so much for being here as we continue in our little week-long journey through the concepts of life and death and life after death. So today we're actually going to talk about reincarnation and karma as well as past life memories. So thank you for being here. I hope that you are enjoying this little sort of week wherein we go further and further and kind of discuss the different aspects of this concept. So please, comment below. Let me know what you think. And once again, please, if there's anything you want to know about or that you want to talk about, because I love learning. I've pretty much determined that it's like, definitely, one of my passions in life is just to learn. I just love understanding things that I don't understand, and finding that information and applying it to my reality. So please let me know if there's anything that you really want to know about. Okay? So karma. Let's talk first about karma because it does affect, reincarnation. As we spoke about in the last episode, it is sort of a premise wherein your deeds, preclude what happens to you as a soul when you pass out of this lifetime. Because at some point we all do, right? By the way, this beautiful cup made by my friend Scott Shopkin. He's on Instagram. Find him. He makes these wonderful cups. Love them. Anyhow, let's see. So karma picks up where the golden rule leaves off. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Because someday it will be done unto you, right? So, wow, how can that really impact? If we all understood and believed that everything that we do to the world, to someone else, will eventually come back to us, and even in some belief systems and spiritual, concepts say tenfold. So the good comes back tenfold and the bad comes back tenfold. So, and that belief actually allows for the idea of revenge to be let go of, right? Because in revenge, you then earn karmic value for that negative deed. And even if it is in some way because someone did something to you that was bad, well, they'll get theirs, but if you come back at them, you'll get yours too. So remember that, right? The Sanskrit word karma means act, action, word, or deed. The law of karma is as it is traditionally the law of karma as it is traditionally taught says that our thoughts, words, and deeds, positive and negative, create a chain of cause and effect, that we will personally experience the effect of every cause we have set in motion. So, yeah. Karma, therefore, is our greatest benefactor, returning to us the good that we have sent to others. It also is our greatest teacher, allowing us to learn from our mistakes. So that's where, we also have to remember that it's not just like, you've been bad, so here's your punishment. It's sort of learning. It's a learning curve, right? And how can we, if we have no empathy or sympathy or experiential, how can we understand good from bad and what, we do that may harm someone else other than having that experience ourselves, right? Now, there is the idea of just, if you're tuned into yourself, there's a feeling when you're doing something that's right, and there's a feeling when you're doing something especially that's wrong, that gut instinct, to kind of show us the way when we feel confused or may not have other experience or information to guide us. So because the law of karma gives back to us whatever we have sent forth as thought, word, or deed, some think of it as punishment, but not so. The law of karma is the law of love. So there is no greater love than having the opportunity to understand the consequence of our actions or our inaction so that our soul can grow, right? So the whole purpose, of being here is growth, is learning, is understanding ourselves in our own divinity, So the belief in karma and reincarnation crisscrosses time and space, finding a home in many cultures, both ancient and modern. The most elaborately developed concepts of karma and reincarnation are found in the religious traditions of India, especially Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, which we did discuss all of those in the last episode. So if you didn't watch it and you're more interested in kind of the foundation of these belief systems as far as life after death, we did discuss that specifically last episode. So that would be episode 8. So yeah, definitely go check it out if you're interested. These traditions explain that the soul reaps both the good and the bad that she has sown in previous lifetimes. Although this is unknown to many Westerners, now I think this is pretty interesting, okay? Before the advent of Christianity, reincarnation was also part of the spiritual beliefs of many of the European peoples, including early tribes, the Finns, the Icelanders, Lapps, Norwegians, Swedes, Danes, early Saxons, the Celts of Ireland, Scotland, England, Brittany, Gaul, and Wales. The Welsh have even claimed that it is the Celtic people who originally carried the belief in reincarnation to India. I didn't know that. I could definitely, kind of vibe on that, right? In ancient Greece, both Pythagoras, whom we did discuss in the numerology, and Plato believed in reincarnation. Pythagoras taught that the soul's many incarnations were opportunities for her to purify and perfect herself. So, as I did mention, Pythagoras did study Egyptian mythology and the mystery schools of Egypt. So he did base a lot of his belief systems around that, right? And as we did discuss in the last episode, the Egyptians did have a belief in the possibility of reincarnation. So some Native Americans, as well as many tribes in Central and South America, also believe in reincarnation. So today it exists among over 100 tribes in Africa, as well as among the Eskimos, the Central Australian tribes, many of the peoples in the Pacific, including the Tahitians, and the Melanesians, and the Okinawans. So what about the Judeo-Christian tradition? The law of karma, law of cause and effect and the golden rule is firmly rooted in that. So, I found this to be super, super interesting to me. According to some scholars, and the statements made by the first century Jewish historian Josephus may indicate that the Pharisees and the Essenes believed in reincarnation. We know that Philo, the great Jewish philosopher and contemporary of Jesus, taught reincarnation. The 3rd century church Father Origen of Alexandria noted that reincarnation was part of the mystical teaching of the Jews. So, the mystical, so the Kabbalah. Reincarnation is taught by students of the Kabbalah, a system of Jewish mysticism that flowered in the 13th century and is actually having a resurgence today with, many other mystical theoretics and ideas, right? So reincarnation is also part of the religious beliefs of the Jewish Hasidic movement founded in the 18th century. And last but not least, history itself, as well as ancient manuscripts unearthed in this century, reveal that reincarnation was alive and well in early Christianity. Again, it was like, I didn't want to just, bring this all into too extreme, because we did speak of reincarnation in the last episode. But even through the 13th century, certain groups of Christians openly espoused reincarnation alongside the traditional beliefs. So I believe that it, not that what Christians believe today is wrong, but that it's incomplete, right? And it was like talking about a specific king that actually cut it out of the Bible. And I can't remember which king it was, but I think I mentioned that at one point in one of our episodes, that I would feel like, any form of divination, reincarnation, and all of that was initially, maybe purported by Jesus, was cut out because, the more you need the church or the priest or someone, the king, to doctrinate you as a human, the more you're going to devote your time, energy, and money to that institution. Okay. And so we have to, no matter what, it's really important that we honor the facts here. And the facts are that, unfortunately enough, Christ's, life and message has definitely been, cut into snippets that can then be kind of glued together and used, to control people instead of set them free, which I think really was the point, is to kind of set yourself free from this, indoctrination into the earthly realm of chain, right? So anyhow, I just wanted to do like a little bit of a recap on reincarnation right now, because what I'm really trying to talk about is past life memories. Okay, so this is something that, my daughter Gaia, actually, I do have a personal story. I don't know if it is a sort of preclusive concept that, brought me a little bit more interested into ancient civilizations and stuff, but, I will share some of it with you guys because I just found it to be amazing. She was like 5 years old, and we were making some art. We were doing some painting because at the time I had a collective in San Francisco with bands and artists and stuff that, I sort of helped run. I was managing it all. We were doing an art show over in North Beach, like an art residency. And she's sitting there and she's like, I've always wanted to be an artist, so I'm like, well, paint something, girl, let's put it up. And so she's sitting there painting, and when she was little, she had this very clear accent. Like, she couldn't say her R's and her TH's and stuff like that. So she had like a kid accent for quite a while. And she was sitting there and she was drawing, she was painting, actually. It was actually a pyramid, one of the stepped pyramids, not the flat looking pyramids of Egypt, but one of the stepped pyramids, more similar to like South America, the ones found there. So, and then on top of it was gold, and on top of it, it had a peace sign. And, she just looks at me finally and says, Mom, do you know what this is? And I said, no, what is it? And she said, it is the house of the very, very first ever goddess. And, I was like, well, is it really? And she says, yeah. Do you know what that means? And again, we're talking about a 5-year-old child. So just remember, I didn't allow for, a lot of television. She was in preschool, but I do not believe they were teaching this type of mythology or this type of ancient history or even geography to children. So anyhow, she says it's the house of the first ever real goddess. And I said, oh, and she's like, do you know what that means? And I said, no. And she said, half human, half the all. And I was like, what? Because even then, right now I know that the Egyptians used the term the all, and is in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and, is a term used, but it's not one that I use even today. I say the universe. So even in that moment, I'm like, this kid, where's she coming up with this? And it took me a few minutes to realize she was actually recollecting a past life memory. It's about in this moment. And she said, I took care of her. And, so from here forward, I want to also say that she lost the accent. She began to speak almost from an oversoul perspective or something, wherein her accent went away. And at this point, I'm starting to go into like some slight state of shock, because I always read about past life experiences being, expressed by children. And Eden one time actually did have like a slight past life memory with a little boy that she used to play with when they were like 3 years old. And they came running up to me one day and said, did you know we were married when we were big before? And I'm sitting here like, when you were big before, because I specifically did not, talk religion. I got very upset when people did that with my children. I wanted them to come forth with something of their own, with their own expression, their own memory, whatever that might be, because, I am sort of studying things, and I don't necessarily just want to buy into anything just because I'm told it. I'd love to experience. So anyhow, I said, I don't know what that means. And she said, well, the goddess was people. And so she started to go like this and sort of put her hands where there was like a map, referencing an invisible map. And she was like, the people who were up here, where England is. And I'm sitting here like, how does this kid know where England is on the map? And so she points to England. She's like, these people, there wasn't money back then. And the world is much different. There's a lot more people. And she's like chuckles. I kind of like it better now than then. But back then, there was no money. But there were things that were like money. And all the people in the England area were, in the place like England, was trying to steal, all of the things that were like money. And trying to harm the goddess. And the people over here where we're at, I'll call them the San Francisco people. Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. The Hopi and their, identification of the fact that they had interaction with the Egyptians and the Tibetans and the ancient peoples were actually traveling probably by boat. Who knows? Maybe spaceship. I don't know. Likely boat. Did have an interactive value with each other. So she's saying that, she was saying that these people, because we were in San Francisco at the time, the San Francisco people used to send things that were like money to help take care of the goddess. She was in Africa. Now we have identified, she's accurately pointing on a map as if there were a map there to where these places would be. And as a 5-year-old, she did not know that. I know this. So she said that basically she then goes over and picks up my piece of amber, and she says, do you see this? And I said, yes. And she said, well, back then we used to build floors from this because if you hold it, it gets warm very fast. And see all the bumps? Those bumps are good for you. To walk on the bumps is good for you on the bottom of your feet. It helps your body be healthy. And I mean, I'm sitting here like, yeah, that's the basis of, acupressure and, reflexology. So I'm just like starting to get really blown away at this point. And then she says there was no real metal. People did not use metal for jewelry at the time. They actually used stones. And she picks up like a rose quartz and shows me like this. And I was like, okay, noted. And so she said that when they had to take care of her, and she was hiding from the England people who were trying to take from her and kill her, that the people who, herself, and everyone else who knew the truth about the goddess died. And there were 3 men left, but they didn't have enough courage to tell the truth about her, and she became a legend. But they came to her, now here's where it gets real intense. They came to her when she was in my belly, in the in-between, to remind her about the goddess because she is our ancestor. Now, this whole thing blew my mind, I'm telling you what. And so, anyhow, after Eden passed away, and I've heard many other people and stories of this, but after Eden passed away, I started really doing research about all things life after death. And included in that was this past life memory idea. And so there are a ton of children. I mean, it's documentable, especially in these cultures, all these cultures that believe, in reincarnation and accept it as truth. They are really open to listening to these children and what they've experienced, right? So, there's a few that stand out in my memory. Gosh, there's so many. I'm going to link a really cool site that has like 20 different ones that actually were able to be followed up upon. These children started having these memories and had so much information that they were actually, their parents or, other adults in their lives were actually able to locate, in history, these facts and these names and stuff and corroborate it. So there was one, like a little boy, had memories. He started having nightmares as a child, and he was here. Let me see. I'm going to bring this page up really quickly here so that I can actually be very accurate with this. So let's see. Here we go. So, I have them in my mind, but I just want to, like, talk a little more about it. James, his name is James, and he started having these memories at around 2 years old of this past life where he was in a war, in an airplane, and basically he had like these horrible memories of being shot down and killed in a World War II plane over Iwo Jima. Okay, and he was like drawing pictures of it and had all these memories, like what type of plane, everything, his name, and he even kept saying like, little man down, like the plane's been shot, little man down, and things in his sleep, right? And so eventually his parents, who were Christian, didn't really understand what was happening, but decided that, they had to look into this. So basically they were able to identify, and he would sign all of his drawings of these memories as James 3. So basically he remembered being James, his name was James Houston in a past life, and he was a second James. His father was James the first, he was James the second, and then this child reborn, apparently was also again named James. And so the parents were able to actually find some of the men he could remember, and they were old men now, and he went to meet with them and actually could identify them, and actually found a whole lot of peace after that, and was able to just sort of let go of the past life, right? So there's one about these twin girls who like passed. I don't know if it was like got hit by a car, or if it was that they were in a car accident as these twin daughters, and they passed away, and the family, actually the mother and father, had another set of twin girls, and they had the same birthmarks and all this, and actually were afraid of cars and things like that. So yeah, there's a little boy who remembered being a woman named Pam who jumped out of a burning building and had all these details, and actually was able to give enough details to where his mother was able to find a fire, and a woman named Pam actually passed away. And so there are children that are remembering past lives from now, 9/11. It is a fascinating subject. And one of my favorites, and I'll leave it, this will be the last one, but there was a little girl in India who lived like in a tribal community, and at around 3 years old, she started talking about being a man who sold incense and was hit by a bus in another town. So her mom, eventually the girl was just overcome with like missing, her family and stuff. So the mom started doing research and actually discovered a man who was a salesman of incense who was hit by a bus, and went to the family and brought the little girl, and she was actually able to refer to her former family members from the patriarchal perspective, and gave enough facts to where that family accepted her as the reincarnation of their father, who had passed away indeed on a bike by getting hit by a bus. And so in the cultures where it's accepted, it's amazing how that works, right? And so yeah, I really feel as though even like little children missing their other parents, and everything. Like, if you have interest in this, there are a ton of information out there, books, videos. I encourage you to spend a Sunday drinking some tea or coffee in your blankets this winter and check it out, because it is fascinating. I really believe that. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I enjoy this topic so much, as I've expressed. So I hope that it can at least get your mind running and sort of looking at the idea that, not only is there just a vast, vast historical belief in reincarnation, but, a lot of children and people, not just children, but, when adults, I will say this really quick, a lot of times adults and their fears and phobias can be relatable to past life trauma and the way they passed away. And then once they have what's called past life regression, which is a type of hypnosis, you can look that up as well, they are able to actually go back sort of in their DNA memory and remember these traumas and work to heal them so they can move forward with this lifetime, And that's also what happens to these children who actually, when their parents do listen to them and take them seriously and look at, what their lifetime may have been and try to find closure, they're able to actually sink fully into this life and move forward on their karmic path. So anyway, yes, thank you so much for being here. And these sort of taboo topics that we're actually discussing, to me, they're fully interesting. I don't find them to be taboo at all. I find them to be just so fascinating as far as, trying to figure out who we are here as human beings and what we're doing and what our history is. Unfortunately, I don't feel like we're being told everything, and there's a purpose in that, and that purpose is to keep us in fear. I've said since Eden passed away, there's some inclination within me that death may be one of the biggest hoaxes ever, purported upon humanity. And then when you go, well, why? Why would anyone do that? Why would government or religion or anybody do that? Well, let's be real. To be in fear, is to be controlled. And when we're fearful and we don't know what happens when we pass on exactly, we are more likely to hold on to these institutions and buy into, whether that is the institution of healthcare, or religion. And I'm not saying these things are negative, but we still must maintain our own autonomy and be thinking for ourselves and educating ourselves, whether that is about our health or about spirituality or religion, or what does our body tell us when it comes to those things, So anyway, thanks so much for being here. Please like and share and subscribe, tell your friends and comment below if there's anything that you feel about this subject that can be shared. If you have a past life memory or your child had a past life memory, please share it. I'm so fascinated. So I would love to hear it. The Talking Stick Collective at Gmail is my email. If you'd rather share it in a private manner, that's great too. But again, thanks so much for showing, growing, and glowing here as human beings. Let's find unity, both within our hearts and minds, as well as our, like our body, mind, spirit, and as well as with each other in community, So I will see you guys on the next episode, which is going to be covering near-death experience. So the people who have these mystical experiences as they either die and come back or come close to dying. Okay. So I look forward to seeing you there. And until then, take care of yourselves and have a great night. All right. Bye-bye.